I don't know how to start this video. I just love good horror and Obsession is fantastic, so I want to talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Bill. I just want to talk about Obsession. I'm a huge horror fan. That's how I got into doing this kind of content. How I got into entertainment is from being very, very scared of The Exorcist and needing to like listen to the commentary, learn how everything was made, what everything means to like stop the terrors and the nightmares. And here we are. I keep wanting to say Curry Booker. That sounds like a detective. Written and directed by Curry Barker, starring Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete. Fantastic performances, incredible writing and direction, also the lighting, the shot composition, the prop work, the scenery, the production design, the music, like every detail. Everyone did such an amazing job on this movie, and the fact that it was done for less than $1 million is just amazing in and of itself. Obsession is so ambiguous, except for when it's not, which makes those beats where it's not ambiguous stand out. I'll be giving my thoughts and a couple of possibilities or just things that I think, while also talking about what is on screen. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that good jazz. P.O. Box, merch store, gaming channel, all in the description, like a resource card, as always, should you or someone you know need it, because yeah, I would highly recommend maybe looking stuff up. I mean, everyone's talked about Obsession, so I'm sure people have like a general idea of what the movie is about. I didn't going in, while I'm glad to have had that experience of, oh, I think it's about this. Oh my God, it's about this. This is gonna have spoilers, but I'm gonna be going in order. And I'm just so excited to talk about it and like sink my teeth as not only a lover of stories, but an absolute lover of horror. Obsession is, to use its own words, about romance, but not love. It uses the unknowns of the magic, the paranormal, the supernatural to emphasize and highlight the horrors of what is real and what is known. Again, kind of like I was referencing with The Exorcist earlier. What if the magic was real and something had happened? Is an amazing setup. Our story opens on Bear, real name Baron, which is double clever if you think about it too much like I do. Bear is practicing asking a girl out with his waitress at a diner with guidance from his friend and coworker Ian. And while there's so much in Obsession that is not ambiguous, here we're just flooded with ambiguity from the first scene. Bear's speech about pining for this girl, Nikki, teeters back and forth between being either sweet and romantic or creepy and uncomfortable, especially when he emphasizes having had feelings for Nikki, who's also a friend and coworker, for years. Bear also confesses that he hasn't shared his feelings out of fear of losing her, and then he's cut off by Ian for being too much, despite the waitress seeming into it, which, I mean, another ambiguous detail already. She's your waitress. She needs tips. She needs this interaction to go well. I really wouldn't consider that reliable feedback. She's not in a position to where she can speak freely. The same could be said for Ian, who I think is Bear's friend. I'm not quite sure. We'll just say friend for now. Ian's advice for Bear is to maybe tease Nikki a little. Something that might work for someone more ostentatious like Ian, but maybe not for someone timid and quiet like Bear. We're even unsure if this is good or bad advice to begin with. Bear likes a girl, but we haven't met that girl. Has teasing worked for Ian in the past? Has it worked on Nikki? Is Nikki a playful tease? Is Ian even committed to helping Bear? The most solid advice Ian gives Bear is to wait. He has all the time in the world. After getting questionable advice, Bear goes home to a house and finds his cat Sandy lying motionless in a mess of food cans, kibble, and pills. Ambiguity strikes again, as this could have been an accident, neglect, or poor care on Bear's part. I mean, the cans are open. Cats can't open cans, but there's also dry food spilled everywhere. How did the kitty get into the medicine is something I've written down now. I've never said that sentence in my life. There's so many questions as Bear cleans up and cries over the cat, right? As he's sobbing, he says the words, "Why can't she?" which doesn't sound like it's about the cat. Why can't she eat equal parts food and medicine? Why can't she measure and count how many pills she needs? It's possible that he's upset about losing his pet, for sure. It also reads like he might be weeping about Nikki and doesn't care about the cat too much. We don't even know if that's Bear's cat. Since he's living in his grandmother's house, this could be his grandmother's cat. It's possible despite losing his cat, Bear is weeping about Nikki, especially as we see the title Obsession sewn into the quilt on his bed. I'm 99% sure Bear isn't obsessed with his cat. Also, I can't help kind of smiling at the obsession being meticulously sewn into a quilt obsessively. I don't know, it makes me smile. All cried out, Bear gets a call from this Nikki gal later in the night. She tells him that she had an awful day at work without him and wants Bear to come meet up for bar trivia. She says she wants to see him. Oh, and needs his brain for answers to win bar trivia. Huh, more ambiguity. Excellent. Since the movie never leaves Bear's side, we only get his perspective, and at first, this ambiguity leads us to understanding at least some of Bear's hesitation. We don't know Nikki, we still haven't seen her face, so we don't know much other than Bear is awkward and sad, effortlessly putting the audience on the line with effective bait. Nikki tells Bear that she put in her 2 weeks notice at work. Despite Ian's advice that he has all the time in the world, Bear's actually running out of time. Nikki drops her crystal necklace down the drain while talking to Bear on the phone, and Bear takes the opportunity to get her a new one as a gift. Probably the last rational thought this man has in the whole movie. At the crystal oddity store, full of things that might be needful, Bear ignores the obvious signs that the store is closing soon, and the burnt out casual cashier guides Bear to the necklaces. And again, I'm trying to keep my theories kind of limited to brief thoughts. Part of me wonders both, maybe the necklace would have worked because it's a genuine token of affection and it proves that he was listening to her phone call. Part of me is also like, do the necklaces actually work? I really like sitting here wondering if the necklaces would have worked, and in more ways than one. Bear second guesses and overthinks the various necklaces until his eyes set on a display of One Wish willows. Eyeing the novelties, it becomes unclear what Bear was actually thinking here. Hey, Nikki, make a wish, haha. Or did he have the idea that if he had a wish, it would be for Nikki's love? As we take a second to admire the immaculate prop design for the seemingly silly tchotchke, the store cashier alludes to the willows maybe being real. This store doesn't sell scams, and it's easy to hide under dealing with skepticism in the occult or spiritual vibe of the store. Like all horror movies, the cashier goes unheeded like any harbinger's warning, and this has the best example of the trope, especially because it's $7. If it's $7, I'm sure it's harmless. Like, this raised 0 red flags for me. It was perfect. And I like to think if you're someone more into that, the crystal side of spirituality and occulty witchy things, $7, that can't be that good of a thing. You know what I mean? It's perfect. As Bear joins everyone at trivia, we finally meet this Nikki everyone's talking about, as well as Sarah, another coworker and friend. Oh yeah, and Ian's there too. And he's already trying to stop Bear from telling Nikki about his feelings. It kind of clouds Ian's intention because he does have a point here. After is great advice. Don't kill the vibe, man. We're hanging out. Do it later. Be cool. While Nikki gets a round of drinks for the group, Bear orders a pina colada, which, as a former bartender, it's just an annoying ass drink. It's just rude. Like, we might not even have the ingredients. Nikki teases Bear for his bad taste, and Indy Navarrete begins a constant barrage of perfect performances, threading that needle perfectly between cute, flirty teasing ? And sibling banter energy. To keep us just as confused as Bear, she also pays for the drinks, calling the bartender babe. Since we know literally nothing about Nikki, it's hard to say if she's just like flirty, unknowingly flirty, if she's super generous with her friends, maybe she owes everyone money and so she wants to like buy a round of drinks. Who's to say? Full disclosure, it's also impossible to flirt with me, and I've been told you're flirting when I'm not throughout my whole life. So I'm also like the worst judge of character here, but yeah, I'd be confused too. I think you're also supposed to feel that uncertainty with Bear while the plot waits in the shadows ready to pounce. As Bear raises his glass to toast Sandy, the trivia starts and Nikki and Ian either ignore him or didn't hear Bear's toast. Sarah was paying attention and comforts Bear as he tells her what happened. As Sarah literally takes Nikki's place in the frame to hug Bear, her signs of being at least a little into Bear are pretty apparent even to an idiot like me. This also helps initially disarm the audience since Bear doesn't play the "oh no, my cat" card later on with Nikki to get similar attention to what he's getting now with Sarah. Showing us some examples of what Bear doesn't do helps what he does do later hide in plain sight. Especially when the trivia question is about Aladdin and genies. I won't lie, I was like, okay, so this movie can't be that clever. It's about a wish. We got it. Well played, Mr. Barker, because you outsmarted even an overthinker like me. I'm like, oh, it can't be that complicated. I admire your trickery here. After trivia ends, Nikki asks Ian repeatedly for a ride home, despite Bear standing right in front of her, literally with his own car. Bear offers Nikki a ride, and again, is she nervous to be alone with him because she likes him? Does he make her uncomfortable? You could even argue she doesn't think about Bear enough to even remember he has a car or notice him standing right there. Ian then makes a comment, yeah, Bear, get your girl home safe, to which Nikki responds, ew. And again, it could be ew at a lot of things. Ew, women aren't property. Ew, Ian's always like this and Nikki doesn't like it. Ew, Bear. It's evenly spread among all these options and more to the point where like I'm starting to get confused and frustrated. Dude, just ask her out so I can sleep tonight. As Bear takes Nikki home, Nikki reminds Bear that she's always there for him if he's sad about losing his cat, and Still unclear, that's just kindness. You could say that to a friend, a potential love interest, a family member. Being nice means nothing. Turns out Nikki wants to quit her job to shake things up in her life. She wants to focus more on her writing and also to find love, affirming for us that she is interested in a relationship, so at least there's that, while she clarifies to Bear that the story she's writing is a romance but not a love story. It's interesting that Bear doesn't understand that there's a difference. Call me an audience member, but maybe you're not right for each other. Maybe Bear's never been in a relationship. We get even more unknowns about Nikki and her feelings as she admits that she only feels comfortable talking to Bear about stuff like this. You can talk about things with a friend, a family member, a potential love interest. And then Nikki gets weirded out that Bear says, "I got a gift for you." And again, this could be something about Bear makes Nikki go, ew. It could be the awkward way he said it. It could be that she's had a bad past experience with, "I got you something," especially at night, especially in a car. I mean, she's in the powerless passenger seat after all. Who knows? It could go in a lot of different ways. Just to add more fog in this Silent Hill scenario, Nikki asks Bear if he likes Sarah, and as Bear rejects the notion of him and Sarah being together, I still have more questions. If you want to avoid drama, they all work together, so maybe this is a subtle chess move for Nikki as well as maybe for Sarah. Not helping the fact is Nikki's perfectly innocuous, nobody knows when I have a crush on someone. Damn, yeah, okay, same. I don't know if you have a crush on someone either. It not only throws Bear through a loop, but also my brain. At this point, you can see why Bear is so confused and full of hesitation. Well, until you get to know the character a little better. Finally arriving at her house, every time Nikki tries to leave, she notably doubles back for Bear whenever he speaks. Almost like she's expecting a dreadful conversation or hoping for a long overdue confession. Taking Ian's advice, Bear then calls her Freaky Nikki. And Nikki does not like that. However, instead of simply storming off, Nikki doubles back again, asking Bear if he likes her. To me, it almost reads like she sensed, whether or not she was happy about it, that he tried and failed to flirt with her, bluntly asking Bear, "Do you like me? Now is the time to say it." You literally cannot get a clearer opportunity than this. Bear lies and says that he doesn't have any feelings for Nikki, and while it's clear he chose the coward's approach, Nikki's response to the half rejection is simply good. Again, thanks to the beautiful performance and direction, it feels like it could be good, we're just buddies with a sad twinge of disappointment, or a disappointed rejection. As Nikki leaves, Bear reaches for the one-wish willow he was going to give her as a present. However, instead of giving it to her, he opens the box himself due to his frustration at lying and backing out at the last minute. Honestly, the unambiguous gift of a new necklace probably would have gotten him at least another chance to bring Nikki back and say what he wanted to say. No guarantees of outcome, but it would have given him one more do-over in a sense. But he didn't commit to a direct, real gift with real feelings and affection attached to it. As he opens the One-Wish Willow box, the perfectly crunchy, goofy music conveys a sense of silly trinket perfectly. I know it's been said to death, but Bear obviously didn't know that the wish was going to be real. It's also designed to make you never entertain the notion if you don't know what the movie's about. It's also no less telling about who Bear is as a person based on how he handled the wish, whether he believed it to be real or not. Unknowingly, recklessly wielding so much power as he snaps the willow like he was lashing out at the situation that he put himself in. It's no different than snapping a pencil out of frustration. If I were to snap a pencil and, "Oh, I'm so stupid, I wish I wasn't," hey man, don't be so hard on yourself. If I say, "You're so stupid and I wish you weren't," and snap a pencil, it's threatening, it's kind of violent, it's about where that energy is going. It's an outburst, it's a reflex, it's something you do when you perceive there to be no consequences. Yet it's still an act of aggression. As Bear wishes for Nikki to love him more than anything in the world, the action of snapping the one-wish willow has a loud physical break, and the intention feels like he's acting out of frustration. It's unsettling for sure, not to mention the wording of the wish itself. This whole video could be just about the logistics of the wish and the phrasing. I'm gonna do a quick list so it doesn't take up half the video. 1, I think the one-wish willow went off of Bear's internalized interpretation of love, kind of like a beauty in the eye of the beholder, right? 2, more than anyone, more than a parent loves a child, a couple that's been married for 50 years, a stalker and their victim they believe to be in love with, anyone. 3, he didn't wish to be perfect nor to change himself for Nikki. It was to change Nikki's feelings for Bear. The wish also wasn't for Nikki to say yes if he asked her out, just be in love with me more than anyone in the world. This last one is silly, I'll grant you that. He didn't even wish for like the power to read minds so he could know without knowing, because that's still knowing. He's too scared. It's obvious how how messed up the wish is now in hindsight, but seeing this movie with no context, I had no idea it was gonna go this hard. I thought at worst it was gonna be a twisted horror say anything moment where someone's standing outside of someone's window. I was not prepared. The score also stops with the ill-fated snap of the One Wish Willow. Like the music is also startled or weird or something big has changed. And we see Nikki staring at Bear between her house and his car. We go from intentionally confusing ambiguity to tense ambiguity as we don't see Nikki's face through the darkened shadows. I think Nikki was already doubling back one more time to talk to Bear, maybe even to call him out for not saying anything about his feelings, possibly even to confess feelings of her own. We'll never know, and it's something that I love about Obsession. We'll never know what was going to happen, and that's such a big element of Obsession going forward. We'll always be asking what could have been or what was going on. As Nikki approaches Bear's car, perfect uncertainty creating this unpredictable tension over what's gonna happen to Nikki. First she says she's fine, but wait, she says she lost her cat? Wait, no, Bear lost his cat. Again, very interesting that we're getting the, oh no, my cat, that's so sad, that card that Bear didn't play being used for his attention. Nikki suddenly snaps out of her confusion, startled and scared and laughing it off, before returning to try to get Bear to agree to go inside. When Nikki's face is partially obscured as she's standing outside the car, and then suddenly getting this big, eerie, cutesy smile from her as she tries overtly flirting with Bear. It instantly feels off, but we don't know Nikki. She could be like this. We don't know, but it's so different than what we've seen so far. Nikki goes through several tactics so quickly just for any way to be around Bear. She's playful and cutesy, oh no, I'm wasted, eventually just resting her head on his car dashboard, crying. Well, she's making the sounds of crying, and again, we don't see her face. We know Indy is a great actor, so I think the fake hollow cries are very intentional, especially when she suddenly stops to tell Bear, oh yeah, my dad's dying, by the way. With such sudden, heartbreaking news, Bear agrees to take her to his place, and holy crap, Bear's house is an amazing horror movie location. We established that Bear's house used to be his grandmother's house, and she left it to him when she passed. The house is so untouched and full of random things, old furniture and knickknacks. We're not sure of the layout. It's constantly coated in shadows, and there's weird objects everywhere. It's immaculate for a horror movie. I love it so much. And you made it make sense real quick. As Nikki takes in Bear's, scent, Bear gets her set up in his bed, and don't worry, he'll take the couch. But Nikki wants Bear to sleep in bed with her. And as Bear sits upright, fully clothed, once again, what he overtly isn't doing helps hide that underlying bad in plain sight. Congratulations, you didn't immediately do the worst thing possible right away. Here's a sticker. I wish the bar wasn't set so low. It's so smart how the movie lulls us into this false sense of security here with Bear. Especially when Bear doesn't initiate, Nikki's the one who leans in for that first kiss. Serving Nikki up on a silver platter complete with rom-com music and everything, the scene almost feels like it belongs in a completely different movie. Obsession really had me thinking, okay, so the horror is not gonna kick in for like 10 or 15 more minutes. 10 seconds later, Nikki is screaming in Bear's face, pulling away from this kiss. A confused, startled, scared Bear, notably, doesn't ask Nikki if she's okay or what's wrong. Instead, he gets defensive. You made me feel like I did something you didn't like. Not even did I do something you didn't like. Was that not what you wanted me to do? After Nikki apologizes and makes up some excuses that she's just not feeling well, Bear ends up sleeping on the floor. He gets up in the middle of the night to search online for anything he can find about One Wish Willows. And while it's debatable if he knew something was wrong or not, he definitely suspected something to the point where he's checking online. What's important to me is the fact that Bear, through his research, gets answers of yes, it's real, and no, it's not real, they don't work. Now he has a choice. Maybe it's real, I should do more research, accept the no, and stop looking into it. This moment of Bear choosing to pick no, it's not real as his option is the line in the sand for me. He even lies about what he was doing when Nikki asks why he got up in the middle of the night. It doesn't read as shy or awkward to me, that reads as guilt. He just picks no, it's not real as an option and gets into bed with Nikki. What happened to the floor, bud? And yeah, I would feel so differently if he asked Nikki something relevant to the wish and she lied to cover up this charade, which he doesn't do. And we all know how well the story ends when you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Sick Odyssey reference, Bill. Thanks, everybody. Bear wakes up the next morning to a beautiful, perfectly domestic breakfast waiting for him. Also a shrine for Sandy, who Nikki dug up. Further crossing the line I drew in the sand, Bear explains to a confused Nikki why this memorial is a bad thing to do. Like she needed to be taught that? That's not concerning? This is already a disturbing addition to the story on its own. I adore how easily Obsession weaves together all these different toxic relationships out of Bear and Nikki's new dynamic, and this teaching vibe just my skin starts crawling. Every time Bear has to teach her something, If nothing else, it's a power imbalance. Later at the music store everyone works at, Bear tells Ian that Nikki stayed over that night. I mean, he tells him partial truths mixed with the unreliable information Nikki gave him about her dad. All of this confuses Ian because he knows Nikki hates her dad. This isn't just a troubling inconsistency. Why didn't Bear know anything about Nikki's dad? It makes you wonder how much or how little Bear really knows about the person he claims to love. To Obsession's credit, it's also very valid to have mixed and varied feelings when a family member, especially a parent you're not close to, is going through something. Regardless, it leaves me with an understanding that Bear knows nothing about Nikki. Luckily, Nikki seems fine. She even gets a ride home from Ian after work instead of following Bear, and later, Ian reports back to Bear that everything's all good with Nikki. Again, we never leave Bear's perspective, so we have no idea what was said, but oh hey, Nikki came over to Bear's place in a nice dress and with a full face. Okay. As Nikki apologizes for the night before, saying that she was acting strange because she was wasted, she clarifies to Bear that he didn't take advantage of her, which again makes Bear defensive and weird, which would typically be understandable. That's an intense and sensitive topic. I wouldn't think so much out of this beat if he hadn't have looked things up about the One Wish Willow and actively chose no, it's not real over maybe yes, it is. This feels like guilt and shame, and he still doesn't ask if Nikki's okay. Nikki, still standing outside like a goddamn vampire, tells Bear that she likes him while her face is covered in shadow with the faintest glint of unnatural light in her eyes. As the movie is screaming at us that something is wrong with Nikki, she again asks Bear if he has feelings for her, exactly like before, but now he says yes. Nikki said it first. So now suddenly Bear doesn't have to move forward in the face of uncertainty. He's just a coward. As soon as it's a clear path forward, he goes down that path. A relationship montage starts between Nikki and Bear, and while I wish that we knew exactly how much time had passed, no answer is a good answer. Either this was an intense amount of stuff really, really fast, or they've been rolling around in this warped charade for weeks or even a month. It doesn't matter because either option is bad. It's also unnervingly warm and soft considering how the cinematic language of Obsession has been dark, ominous ambiguity with a growing dreadful tension. Even the haha, it's us but on my phone is tainted by the unnerving, handmade for the movie slop that Nikki had generated with the text, I wish I could wear your skin? You generated that, Nikki? Like, that's not us. I want to go home. Cooking and hanging out seems to be going fine, but it gets repetitive fast. And while we start to get into this repetition, the music starts kind of melting. Like, the score doesn't feel happy. Rather, it feels like it's just kind of going through the motions, or like something is off. As Nikki and Bear enjoy a date night in a restaurant for a change, things seem almost fine. Nikki asks Bear what he wants to do with his life, and he wants to be a food critic. Not out of passion, it's just so he can get free food and feel important? Turns out he knows nothing about food nor food criticism. Bro just wants to be the villain in Ratatouille. Honestly, in a different movie, it would almost be kind of sad. It's like he just wants to feel important or matter or get noticed or have special treatment. His reasoning is just, oh, you're here. Oh, you don't have to pay for this, while he says and does nothing. Like, share, comment, subscribe, Tony. But yeah, in a different movie, this would be kind of sad. Dude wouldn't know quality meat in a blind taste test. Ian calls Bear, interrupting their lovely, nice date, to tell Bear that he looked into Nikki's dad and everything's fine. He doesn't want to cause any drama at work, but Nikki also told Sarah recently that she sees Bear as a brother, and it's weird that they're suddenly now dating. Something must have changed. Granted, Nikki could have lied to spare Sarah's feelings. She obviously likes Bear. Or Ian could be exaggerating. None of these unknowns matter in this moment, because as Bear hears the words something must have changed, we see him go through the flashbacks in his mind, and he realizes this relationship isn't real. The wish worked. As Bear returns to the entity pretending to be Nikki, he receives a gift and that long hold on the jewelry box as he worries and fears what's inside solidifies that yes, Bear knows something's wrong. That long, tense buildup to a simple gift is effective illustration to the horrors Bear is now seeing in his reality. He confronts his date about her dad's health. The resulting meltdown in the restaurant, the yells and panic as the signs of rejection loom for this not Nikki, it's not only immaculate acting, it's also an amazing shift in their dynamic. We're now seeing Bear on the back foot. Now Bear gets a taste of what it's like to be the person who feels the boat rocking from unwanted affection. He's now cornered in public, trying to stop her screams and diffuse a public scene. Let me be very clear, Bear is a victim of himself and his own choices. I just also like seeing that reflection staring back at him, a victim of himself. I can't stress that enough. We started the movie with Bear admitting that he fears that he'll lose Nikki if he shares his feelings, and while it's valid to have a fear of rejection, there's also a fear of having to reject someone, and I like seeing Bear now in the other seat, the passenger seat, as opposed to the driver's seat, if you will. As we see Bear start to reject and wish Nikki's feelings back, she begins to scream, and he backpedals and placates the situation immediately. Whether it was an impulsive wish or not, Bear's wish was controlling, and the second that he's no longer the one in control, he panics, instantly backs off, submitting so he can subdue the screams, to stop rocking the boat. It's so well executed without shifting the blame off of Bear for making the wish and also ignoring the warning signs. As fake Nikki calms down, you can feel the pendulum almost swing to, oh no, Bear, how are we gonna fix this, buddy? To, holy shit, you disgusting farce of a human being, get away from her. Again, there's so much ambiguity and subtlety in Obsession. There's literally no nuance here as we jump from the date to the bedroom. All of that unknown, all of that uncertainty makes what's known and clear here stand out even more. If the music sting wasn't enough, or the hard edit, you can also tell because this is a horrific scene in a horror movie. Links in the description. We don't even see Nikki afterwards. It's poignantly just Bear alone in the frame. And once again, we get another shift in Bear's dynamic with whatever's controlling Nikki when Bear wakes up to strange noises in the middle of the night. As opposed to being in public, now it's like there's an invader in his home, lurking in the dark as he lays vulnerably in bed. Seeing Bear fear for his safety as Nikki moves around the room has this unsettling tone of, see, this is what it's like to be scared. This is what it's like to feel unsafe, to have no control, while maintaining that this is of his own doing. This is a monster he created. To me, these scenes are both the entity and Nikki herself doing what little they can do while colliding inside of Nikki's body. As she moves towards Bear, you see that she's wearing his clothes, watching him sleep, but scared to return to his bed. At times, I think it's Nikki not wanting to be near Bear, and other times, it might be the creature craving more pieces of Bear out of this twisted, warped interpretation of love. Again, huge props to performance and direction, but also lighting and effects. Nikki looks and feels off. Wrong isn't the right word, but like altered. Little things are done to warp her image in the dark, and I absolutely love it. It's so unnerving. We don't quite know what we're looking at anymore. Meanwhile, dumbass Bear tries just laying back down, and it's so deplorable, it's almost funny to see that level of denial. It's nothing. Especially as Nikki continues to scream and move around the room in strange ways, at one point hiding her face behind a vase like a creepy painting that you just can't stop staring at. And again, when we can't see her face, we don't know what she's feeling, what she's doing, and now add in, we don't know if her face has changed more, or what she's gonna do next. The next morning, Bear tries reasoning with this new Nikki, like he can still make this work somehow. Given that he wants her to be normal, it's clear that this human jello mold never wanted Nikki. He just wanted the idea of Nikki, and trying to get this creature to capture the essence of Nikki as like a bare minimum, not a pun, takes that sentiment to a whole new level. Seeing the entity try so desperately to make Bear happy is almost getting kind of sad. Bear blatantly ignoring what's been happening and making the entity promise no more weird stuff is more unnerving than face Nikki from the night before, especially as we see fake Nikki has duct taped the front door shut. It makes me wonder if the wish is more about Bear's interpretation of love. He didn't want Nikki to quit her job and leave, and now the entity doesn't want Bear to leave and go to his job. Impulsive or not, his wish was controlling. His interpretation of love is controlling. Moving the needle even further, this excellent metaphor continues as we see Nikki literally freeze in place when Bear leaves for work. There's nothing to this creature outside of Bear, just like how Bear's thoughts of Nikki are limited to what very little he knows of her. It makes me wonder again if the wish or the entity only has Bear's interpretation and information to work with. There's nothing here outside of being with Bear. Also, I gotta say, sick Exorcist reference. Bear eating the lunch that fake Nikki made him goes beyond denial into just disturbingly ignorant. Like, really, dude? After everything that happened, you're not gonna check the sandwich or read the note first? Like, that'd be the first thing I would do. There's a lot of things Bear does that I wouldn't do. He's literally looking at photos of himself that he didn't know were taken from unnatural angles, and he's still gonna break off a piece of that fancy feast? Was that too gross? Seeing just the photo of Bear asleep taken by not Nikki already fills me with dread to see something so invasive and violating. And it just gets cranked up to 11 as we see the "not me" caption at the bottom of the photo. It's gotta be from the real Nikki, right? We're not gonna question that, Bear? No? Cool. Putting the polarizing Polaroids aside, Bear continues his lunch break with Sarah. When asked about his strange notes and his odd lunch, Bear dismisses everything as just an inside joke. As Sarah receives a college rejection letter, we get a refreshing beat of just calm in all this chaos as Bear sits with a dejected Sarah. While I personally don't see this as, aw, they should be together, what I see in this moment is options and possibilities. This scene would have happened with or without the wish, so it also adds this unknown of what would have happened if he just hadn't have done this. Again, I really don't think Bear and Sarah would work as a couple. Shout out, though, to my fellow septum baddies. We deserve better. I look at Bear having a cute moment with Sarah as an ignored potential connection pushed away like he does with the disturbing photos. God, the sandwich is so gross, but it disgusts me so good. Not only is it a twisted take on domestic expectations, it also makes me dread more of what not Nikki's terrifying detachment from reality is going to bring next. It's just as dreadful as Bear continuing to rationalize, well, everything, especially when Bear is given more opportunities to tell someone the truth, not just Sarah, but now with Ian as he gives him a ride home from work. Instead of talking about Nikki and the wish, they argue about a party Ian didn't invite Bear to, and when Nikki finally does come up into the conversation, it's out of concern for Bear, given how fast and sudden their relationship has changed. And I will say I do appreciate that the outside perspective is concerned for Bear. It's a nice real-world acknowledgement that anybody can be harmed, manipulated, or taken advantage of by their partner. I appreciate that vibe in a meta way. Thematically for the story, it shows how Bear is hiding in plain sight under everyone's radar. Most importantly, it makes me believe that Bear would be somewhat believed or supported if he told someone the truth about the wish sooner. I'll get into that in a little more detail later. Just another neglected possibility, another choice being made by choosing inaction. While everyone's confused and freaking out, this would be the time to tell someone something confusing that would freak you out. Again, we'll get back to that later. Cause say what you will about Ian, I think he genuinely is worried Nikki is using Bear to get to him. It's self-centered, yes, but I think he believes he is looking out for Bear. Ian even asserts that if everything is healthy and okay in their relationship, then Nikki will be fine letting Bear go to his party tonight without her. And I love that sinking feeling of, yeah, you're right, cause we already know how that's gonna go. As Bear preps to tell Nikki he's going to Ian's party, oh, and the sandwich was not okay, by the way, he finds the empty One Wish Willow box in his car. While now the very real multiple warnings all over this box suddenly make a lot of sense now, he also could have checked for the box and read this at any time. It was just in his car. He'd have to dig through the trash or find it. Again, I point to the internet searching. He could have done more research. Oh, and it turns out there's a customer service number on the side of the box too. Seems like it's pretty easy to get the answers that you need if you even bothered to want to look for them. I don't know why. I love how deflated the customer service rep is when Bear calls the number. It's funny, and it's also kind of scary to think about all the other phone calls this person must have had that gets you worn down to this point. Bear asks the representative if he can alter his wish, not cancel, stop, or undo, change it a little. which is equally disturbing and very telling. We find out that he can't cancel or change his wish even if he wanted to, but that still wasn't his initial goal. We do find out, however, that it does last as long as you are alive. The rep tells Bear that it sounds like he has a moral obligation to be there for her. A nice nod to Bear's lack of accountability, absolutely, but he also distinctly says her before asking if Bear wants to talk to Nikki. Amazing distinction. It's also morbid to think that there is a path where Bear could choose to teach this fake Nikki to be more acceptable if he were to put in that level of effort, which we know he's not going to do. Creepy, subtle little details like that are my absolute favorite. What's not so subtle is Nikki screams over the phone. So she's still present somewhere. Once again, Obsession continues to give us just enough information to feed our fears and let the mind panic and fill in the gaps for ourselves. After reality literally screams in Bear's face, he hangs up the phone without speaking to Nikki at all, entering his house to find fake Nikki standing in the same spot he left her, covered in her own filth, with an eerie joy that her bear is finally home. It's almost like he has a pet now. It's so disturbing. Obsession, again, really does cover so many unnerving ways to highlight this relationship will never be not toxic. Teaching Nikki what's right and wrong like a child, keeping her calm and happy to avoid public and private blowups, and now all this. One of these things would be more than enough to illustrate your point for sure, but the way it keeps morphing and warping, it builds this excellent tension of, oh God, what's next? While also establishing that nothing is off the table when dealing with this entity. As Nikki eagerly goes to shower, Bear tries again to reprimand her, saying that he's very upset about the cat is just so unhinged and wrong. Bear brings up the party, and Not Nikki gets more and more upset at the idea that he's going to leave without her. Wish Nikki starts shouting and panicking, and it's followed by loud crashing, all behind a closed bathroom door. Not only do we not know what she's capable of, we don't know what she's doing. And neither does Bear. Turns out this relationship is unhealthy after all. At the party, an upset Ian now thinks it's Bear who's the one who can't be without Nikki, as the party plays Truth or Dare with, unlicensed large stacking blocks. Every actor, even the extras, keep the tension in the room buzzing as everyone slowly realizes that something is very wrong with not just Nikki, but her and Bear's relationship. Between the loud fake laughter or starting to panic when Bear's dared to switch seats, both of those in isolation would be more than concerning enough. As the party continues, Nikki gets a dare and just begins reading from her phone. Presumably what she's reading is something maybe the real Nikki wrote. I mean, she wanted to be a writer after all, but I can't stop wondering if this was written after the wish, while Nikki and fake Nikki were swapping in and out. There was a brief window of time when Nikki wasn't always around Bear, and it could have been then. I can't go into detail of the story, nor do I really want to personally, but it's dark, twisted fairy tale based off of Hansel and Gretel. It's really well written. I think it's really cool and scary. I don't want to read that. Granted, there's a chance that Nikki used to refer to Bear as something like a brother. It could be about Bear's unwanted attraction to Nikki. It could be the entity pretending to be Nikki. It could literally be born from the wish. What throws me through the biggest loop is there's a line, a wish from a willow tree, given its obvious direct relation to the One Wish Willow. It makes me think that Wish Nikki wrote it, or both of them. Like, it's so unknown, and I love that. Despite knowing that wishing is real and that's not Nikki, the story still gives us more and more ambiguity. It's fantastic. After that sinister scented story time, Bear is dared to kiss the person on his left, who at first was Nikki, but now, because he had to switch seats with someone, is Sarah. While yes, I'm terrified for Sarah, that scene has such an odd comedic tone that's akin to like nervous laughter for me. It already brings me a lot of joy that frowny Nikki is becoming its own horror icon right now. Every time I see it, I'm filled with like this nervous laughter that then so easily fluctuated back into tension and terror as fake Nikki drags Sarah by the chair away from Bear so she can get that kiss on his left. It's this perfect, oh no, nervous laughter. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Like, I really love that fluctuation of emotions there. It almost feels relievingly silly, and then it's devastatingly scary again. The unnerving tension in the air just bursts into the disturbing as Nikki screams at the party that nobody will have or know a connection like she and Bear have. Fake Nikki plays it off as a joke, which is classic red flag behavior, when suddenly real Nikki snaps back in control, screaming, "It's not me," as she hits her own face with a bottle. I see this as both a desperate move to stop fake Nikki. I think it's a way to stop Bear, or at least prevent Bear from seeing only her body and face. I mean, that's all Bear has at this point to pretend with is Nikki's face and body, and now it's altered in a way that Bear can't ignore. Bear does try taking fake Nikki to the hospital, which again, like all of his choices, was an option the whole time. They won't admit her, presumably because she's refusing care. Part of me wonders if part of this is Bear not agreeing to go with her. I mean, all she wants to do is be around Bear, so I feel like, in a way, if Bear agreed to go with her, she would have gone. Maybe I'm being a little too cynical. We're gonna get a little cynical. When they get home, Bear initially erupts on the entity and then instantly backpedals and tries reasoning with her to keep this twisted charade going. The entity saying, "I'm your freaky Nikki," is chilling. Again, we don't know a lot about Nikki. We know she doesn't like being called Freaky Nikki. Equally visceral is Bear's screams to just be Nikki. Literally the first time he has acknowledged out loud that's not Nikki. As the entity swears over and over that she can be just like Nikki, it's really chilling to realize neither of them are talking like as if Nikki is in the room. Just for Bear to finally snap and admit that this isn't real. Bear tries calming her down, saying he loves her over and over, but the illusion is shattered and the entity unravels. It's not just a great scare to see fake Nikki moving in reverse. It's almost like the entity wants to undo the fight or start over. It bends my brain all over the place trying to think of what this could mean or what's going on, especially as a terrified Bear is met with a brief, "Don't be scared, baby, I would never hurt you." It's delivered like the entity is trying to convey, "I have things under control, I'm fixing it, like please remain seated." Like, it's so unnerving. She even lunges towards Bear and quickly stops. Sometimes when I think about this scene, I picture real Nikki fighting to like run away or escape, or maybe wish Nikki is confronting or grappling with real Nikki, or it's a lunge at Bear. Like, again, all that anger and frustration and almost wanting to like shake him and go, "What do you want me to do?" It's like the entity is getting angry and frustrated with Bear, and it's at odds with that conjured wish love, if that makes any sense. Bear offers that the entity take the bed for herself tonight to calm down, and fake Nikki responds by getting a knife, implying, threatening really, something will happen to Nikki if she is left alone. The entity covers a wide range of tactics one might use to isolate or manipulate their partner. It also has this unspoken, "You didn't care about Nikki when you made the wish, you didn't care when you learned the truth, why care now?" is kind of the subtext I take away from the scene. Trapped in bed with the sleeping entity, Bear gets a late night text from Sarah. First off, that text tone is loud. Silence your phone, idiot. You're in a movie. Already the text tone going off creates this great tension of not wanting to wake the entity. Then when you realize it's a text from Sarah, we just realize that Nikki is in danger from the entity. It's jealous of Sarah. I don't want it to wake up. I don't want it to hurt Nikki. And now I'm scared for Sarah. Like, I don't want Bear to get what he wants. So ultimately, I don't care about his fate. However, with everyone else in danger, the tension, the dread of horror remains and holds strong, despite my feelings for the character that we're still following. It also makes me realize Bear still isn't taking the opportunity to ask for help. It's because of guilt for sure, but I won't deny the possibility that he's still trying to make this work, to have his cake and force his cake to be his cake too, especially when Nikki begins talking to Bear. Not the entity, real Nikki. Another incredible addition to the supernatural element of obsession, Nikki somehow regains a small amount of control as the entity sleeps, something I also realized we haven't seen the entity do until now. Finally being able to communicate beyond short outbursts, Nikki begs Bear to end her life. Bear doesn't ask if Nikki's okay or where she is. At first he insists, "No, you've been Nikki this whole time," until finally just breaking and asking her, "What's so bad about being with me?" After all those scenes where we see Bear on the back foot, the one who's powerless, the one not in control, here he has control. Here he can make a choice, and he chooses again to think only of himself and not even bother helping Nikki. Not only is it clear he does not care about Nikki despite all those years pining for her, he doesn't even care about fixing this. Further solidifying how evil and gross this is, Bear backs away into the shadows like the creature, the entity, has done to him, leaving a crying Nikki alone on her bed as he goes to talk to Sarah. Frankly, after that scene, I'm kind of scared for Sarah to be alone with Bear. While Bear keeps the lies going about both Nikki and her dad, Sarah expresses concern for Bear and worry that Nikki is taking advantage of him. This might be my only criticism of the script, and it's really, really small of a detail. I feel like after what Nikki did at the party, I feel like the concern might have shifted a little bit. That's just me. It feels slightly disconnected. Quick pitch to fix it. Nikki's in the hospital. Nikki spoke to a doctor. She's resting. She's fine. Something that Bear's now continuing to cover up the lies. Again, that's just me, and it's such a small detail. It really doesn't matter, but I'm like, yeah, things have changed since the last time we spoke. Turns out Sarah wants Bear with her as she opens her letter from her dream school. Just like the party and the lunch break, it's another moment that would have happened organically between Bear and Sarah regardless of the wish. And again, I don't think them being together would be good. These scenes would have organically happened whether or not Bear made the wish, and it does kind of make me think maybe he would have noticed Sarah more. Whether or not that's a good thing, who's to say, but it's interesting to see what was so unseen at the beginning of the movie. Not to mention when Sarah tells Bear that Ian and Nikki have been casually hooking up for years. So many scenes in this movie have been recontextualized with just that little bit of information. Almost like we have so much stuff withheld from us because Bear doesn't ask questions of the people around him. And it really makes you think, was Ian messing with Bear the whole time, or was he genuinely helping him? Was he trying to get Bear to stop pining after Nikki out of pity or concern? Maybe Nikki actually was kind of into Bear and that threatened Ian because he couldn't give her that kind of relationship, or she didn't want that with him. Nikki did say she wanted to feel love when she quit her job. Personally, I think it's a little bit of everything all rolled into one. Ian can be selfish and still be looking out for Bear. Nikki could also have zero interest in Bear, and they decided to keep their relationship a secret to not rock the boat at work. For all we know, Nikki could have intentionally downplayed her feelings for Bear to not rock the boat and stir up drama with Ian and Sarah. Just thinking about it makes me realize, yeah, maybe it would be healthy to quit your job and find another one, Nikki. We just follow Bear in this movie. And because Bear is too cowardly to ask Nikki out or express his feelings, we just don't know anything. We don't know any of this. I really love feeling that frustration. Thanks for ruining Obsession, Bear. We could have gotten so much lore, Bear. Like, I love that feeling. There's so much in Obsession that I admire from a storytelling perspective. I also like that it kind of gives you a solution to its problem. Say what you're feeling, and if it doesn't go the way you want it to, at least now you know and you can move on. You know, don't obsess. Sure, it's scary to be vulnerable and you don't know what's gonna happen, but it's not life or death. As Sarah and Bear bring up the kiss they didn't get to have at the party, the rom-com music begins to build and return. Finally, someone's gonna go for it. See, it's not that scary. It's, well, that's a really beautiful practical effect. Not a pun, I swear. Reality crashing down right as that kiss is about to happen is so satisfying. I almost forgot about Nikki, if I'm being honest. I was not expecting her to show up, let alone crush Sarah like that. It's such a long, drawn out beat too. Like, it's almost like the entity is rubbing Bear's face in it. Which, that's not a pun either, I promise. Fake Nikki literally does tell Bear, this is your fault. Remember, you wanted this. And then immediately after, fake Nikki starts comforting Bear while telling him that they have to hide Sarah's body. We can fix this, but it's also your fault. And he does it. Like, I know you're in shock, dude, but still. Not Nikki allows Bear to go home and she'll do the final steps herself. And we finally get to see Bear completely safe and alone since making the wish. As he opens Sarah's letter, we learn that she would have been accepted into her dream art school, and he just snaps, screaming in the car. Obviously, it's way too late now, and a cynical part of me questions Bear's clarity. He didn't have a moment like this for Nikki. While yes, the permanence of death can't be pushed away, lied about, or denied, there's a small cynical part of me that's like, are you upset that you missed out on a chance of having a real relationship? Personally, I think the focus is way more on how permanent losing Sarah is, and there's no way around this. Like, he has to face reality. There's just a cynical part of me that wonders if this is also proof that he never cared about Nikki. This revelation comes from losing Sarah, not what he did to Nikki. If nothing else, it feels like the revelation that Nikki wasn't that special to him and Sarah was, which is so messed up. It could also be a little bit of both. Bear rushes back to the crystal store to get more One Wish Willows. Again, not to be too cynical, Bear could have done that the whole time. Part of me even wonders if maybe he had this idea, like a plan in the back of his mind, and chose not to do it until this moment. I really like how when we enter the store again, it's a completely different movie. It kind of implies that there's a way to make a wish with the One Wish Willow and not ruin the lives of everyone around you. As Bear tries to make a new wish, you only get one, dude. It's not a few wish willow. Bear notably doesn't try to undo the wish. He wishes for Nikki to just love him as a friend. And yes, there is a little bit of a sacrifice here since he'd be giving up the relationship. He still wants Nikki to like him. He wants to come out feeling like a good guy. Running out of options, Bear goes to Ian's to ask him to make a wish that Bear never made a wish. Just like the the beginning of the movie, we're running out of time, and now Bear has to frantically explain not only is magic real and the wishes are real, he wished for Nikki to love him. Again, something we could have avoided if we had mentioned this sooner. It quickly crashes and burns when he says Ian can just be with Nikki, he doesn't care. I feel like it's a byproduct of the fact that he has to speed run all this explanation. He didn't rehearse this speech, and maybe he should have if he had time. It's not the magic that stops Ian, it's the comment about him and Nikki. Sure, Ian's an ass, but I think it's reasonable to just be fed up with every conversation you have with Bear ultimately going back to his obsession, TM, with Nikki. Bear's constant inaction throughout the movie is ultimately what leads to Ian's mocking wish for $1 billion. Funny as it is to see cash rain down from above, we also realize with Bear that this plan is now doomed. And here's where, again, I think saying it sooner would have helped. If Sarah was still in the picture, now you have two people, Bear and Ian, going, no, it's real, look at all this money, you need to make a wish. That's just me. And I like that frustration. We're seeing all these consequences of Bear's actions, or his inactions, the choices that he's made. With no other ideas, Bear returns home hoping he can somehow manipulate the fake Nikki into making the wish that undoes his wish for him. And again, I think that would have worked earlier in the movie before all the fighting. She would have done anything for him earlier in the movie. Bear comes home to find another memorial laid out by the entity for Sarah. And yeah, rest in peace, Sarah. I mean, hi, Sarah. Hello. You look great. Won't lie. Seeing the entity try so desperately to emulate and be like Sarah, like you didn't need to go this hard. This scene, the whole movie plays out exactly the same if Bear just comes home and fake Nikki is just covered in blood and maybe some more dirt. Like, you just cranked it up to 11 and it just is breathtaking. You didn't have to go this hard, and I'm so happy you did. It's so messed up. And it's kind of tragic how much the entity is doing to try to get Bear to love her. The entity saying I want to eat you up before revealing that she has a gun, which was alluded to at the beginning of the movie. The entity blasts Ian before he can even enter the house and continues threatening Nikki until Bear finally screams I love you to calm the entity down. Now the entity is living in a delusion that Bear cannot worm his way into joining, highlighting again Bear's powerlessness as he drowns in his own consequences. As Bear gets permission to go alone to the bathroom, the entity mentions maybe we should take some space, maybe we should break up, whatever Bear wants and needs. One last little manipulative, toxic tactic as Bear contemplates the only other way to cancel his wish: death. Failing to use the gun, he chooses instead to use the same pills that took Sandy. It really does feel like the movie will be over soon. Again, excellent performance as we're holding on this long shot of Bear. The music is swelling. It feels final. It feels like a conclusion. And as we see Bear prepare for the end, he attempts to make himself sick, refusing to make a choice one more time before we hear the all too familiar snap from the other room. Bear's whole demeanor changes as he leaves the bathroom, forced to be in love with the entity, or becoming a whole new entity himself. The pills start to take effect after one last kiss. The entity, the monster Bear created, took his autonomy away in his final moments, and that ultimately killed him. As a crying fake Nikki holds Bear and cries over his body, we confirm that Bear is indeed gone as the real Nikki snaps back. Nikki screams as the credits roll and we hear her cry out, "What did you do?" And it's a fantastic ending. I'm so grateful not only that this movie got a wide release and I got to see it. Evidently, someone tried to get Curry Barker to change the ending, and he said, no, I can't imagine this being effective in any other way. Hearing her screams and just one final, "What did you do?" making sure that the ball of blame lands in Bear's corner as we cut to credits. Amazing. Not only do I love the reminder of that horrifying sentiment that we all have the power and capability to ruin other people's lives, it also leaves me with this feeling of, well, just let Bear die isn't the solution either. Bear dying literally does not fix anything and only makes things worse for Nikki. There's no one alive to corroborate her story. There's no one that can give her any information. Even if she was conscious for the moments where they were in the room together, she doesn't know everything, and now she never will. Like, sure, she's a survivor. She's also about to tragically become yet another victim who will never be believed. I think it just really amplifies that ending to sit there and realize, with or without the magic components, no one's gonna believe her. I hope it goes without saying, I absolutely love this movie. I know there's a lot of conversations about this movie. I just also love it so much, and I wanted to share the details and what I like and what I think and what I notice. You can go in so many different directions with theories and stuff. I'd love to hear other people's, especially if you watch the video all the way. Thank you so much. I just, again, think it's so incredible to see like this innocuous feeling choice leading to all of these these direct, disgusting decisions, and then seeing the ramifications, the consequences. Again, every time we see Bear now powerless in the situation, I wish I could think of a better way than taste of your own medicine, but yeah, it's like, this is how you're making other people feel. And by extension, the audience, it's like, I don't want to make other people feel like this. Like, that's a really good point. Like, we shouldn't feel like this. I think it does its job incredibly well while still servicing not only the horror, but also the story being told. And also sticking to your vision. Again, not changing that ending. I cannot think of a different version of this ending where it hits as hard. I just think the message is so important, and I hope we can start getting to a constructive, better conversation, not just about the movie, but about these themes. Even just Nikki saying she's gonna quit her job because she feels stuck in her life, that's what pushes Bear to make that wish. They still could have hung out outside of work, but that would require effort from Bear. And now here he is having to like tiptoe and worry about the response to every little thing he does while this entity is so attached and glued to him, obsessed with him. I really like feeling that without alleviating what he's done to Nikki, and that what he chooses not to do, how he chooses never to help or fix or change things. Aladdin doesn't wish for Jasmine to love him, he wishes to be a prince. Spoilers for Aladdin. You know what I mean? Like, even that action. Instead, he wants to change the person he loves, which then begs the question, do you even love that person at all? I love thinking about this movie. So yeah, there you guys go. Those are my thoughts after watching Obsession. I hope this gave you something to think about or something interesting to listen to. Whether or not you agree with me, I hope you just had a good time, or as good a time as possible considering the themes. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Gaming channel, merch store, and P.O. box is all linked in the description next to a resource card, as always, should you or someone you know need them. I love horror so much. Like, yeah, I hope the video goes well. It's so exciting to see horror get such a center focus this year. Like, it's been so exciting. I've seen other horror movies in my life, but also recently, and I'm going to talk about them over on Patreon. So there you go. Patreon plug. Names are going by. Thank you to the dames. Thank you for clicking and watching. Thank you so much, everyone, for being supportive. I hope to see you next time I upload or go live. I hope everyone's staying safe. Thank you so much again, as always, for clicking and watching and listening to my stupid thoughts. Remember to take care of yourselves, please.